Hello, this is Mr. Deckard, Studio D Productions, and I'm here tonight with a tutorial on Photoshop, introductions to Photoshop, some things that you can do with it. Basically, I'm going to introduce this program, a few of the tools, and we're going to start immediately with selections and what you can actually do with very specific selections. We're going to do targeted changes. So it winds up being pretty cool. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some critical pieces of the software. If we look over here to the right hand side where I'm shaking my mouse, you'll see that I have my layers. Now this is similar to Illustrator and Flash that also have layers. And once again, you also want to name those layers. So I can double click right on this picture that I have. And if I don't get right on the words, I'm going to get that option. I want to make sure I click right on the words, then I can change the name. I want to change this to picture. Sometimes I put original. Either way, what I want to do then is immediately duplicate it by right-clicking, duplicate the layer, and I'll just call it picture copy. Then I'm going to lock the original layer by selecting it and then selecting the lock, and then I'm going to turn it off. Now I'm going to go back and select the picture copy that I just made. So why did I do that? Well, in Photoshop, you will do quite a few layers and you'll do quite a few changes as you move along. Now, as you're making those changes, occasionally you make mistakes. In the other two programs, you can hit Control-Z multiple times and you'll be able to go back. In this program, you can only hit Control-Z one time. If you do want to back up, you really need to have your history panel open, and if you can't see it, then you just go up to Window and History and it should pop up. I don't see where history is here though. It says the panel is up, and unfortunately I don't see it at the moment. I'll pull that up again here in a bit. I don't want to get bogged down at the moment. My wife also works on this program, and she mixes up my panel sometimes, and I don't see everything that I need to see. So I'm going to blame her for that right now. Anyway, so over on the left-hand side, we have our black move tool, which we'll be using. We'll also see our color swatches, which are right here. We need to change that to black and white. We have a mask tool here at the bottom, which we're going to be using in just a moment to make a really cool change. And yeah, we're gonna proceed from there. We'll also be looking at the image command, the layer command, and the select command. Those will be all the areas that we'll be touching in this tutorial. So first, let's turn on our mask, and we're going to use our eraser tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to target the eyes. And so I'm going to hit Control plus a couple times and zoom in. And what I want to do is I want to make a circle on my eraser here about the size of the bluest part of her eye. I don't want to get the black if I can avoid it. Also, I want to have white on top. That's important. So it's a hard brush, set at 45. That's what I've got here. And I just come over here and line it right up and click. And it's going to do that. Then I'm going to come over to the other eye and do the same thing. Click. Now I'm going to flip to black on top over here on my panel by hitting this broken arrow. Black is now on top. I'm going to run this down to about 18, I think is the number. Come over here, and what I want to do is I want to click this in the pupil. Now watch what this does when I do. Did you see it? And that removes the red. Now you might ask what that red actually is. Well, the red is a mask, and the purpose of a mask is so that you can mark off an area that you either want to affect or avoid affecting. In this case, we're going to affect it. So what I'm now going to do is change my brush to a soft brush, and I'm going to raise it up slightly. That's a little bit more than slightly, somewhere in there, and I need to go over the top because what I want is that red off of the eyelashes. And perhaps I'll even zoom in a little tighter so I can see it. And you don't want to try to do it all at once. Now I turn my mask on and off, and I can see I've got it pretty well done there. I'm going to click just a little bit more right there. Then I'm going to go over the top here again. One more time. Probably need to click a little bit right there. Turn this off to see what I've got. Looks pretty good. For our purposes, that will work. Now I'm going to zoom out, and you notice when I turn my mask off by hitting this button below, you notice I have this marquee that goes around the outside of my selection or my picture, and then I have marquees around the eyes. Now what this means is everything but the eye that I drew out, the iris, is selected, and that's the colored part of the eye. Everything else, so if I make any changes, it's going to go everywhere else but the eyes. I have protected or masked the eyes, but I actually want to do the opposite. So I'm going to hit select here and then roll down to inverse. Now watch what happens to my marquee outside of the picture. Disappears, and the only thing that's left are the marquees around the eyes. That's because that's the part I want to change. Now you might say, well, why did I do it backwards like that? Well, it was the easier way to do it because I could use the circle tool to make perfect selections on the iris portions and the pupil portion. I could have tried that with a paintbrush, but it wouldn't have been as good. This is crisp, and it's just experience knowing that this is the cleanest and quickest way to do it. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go up to Layer, New, and slide on over to via copy, layer via copy. This is important. Do not go via cut. Go via copy. And if you look over here, and if I turn that off, look what's left. You might say, well, why in the world would I do anything silly like that? Well, first I'm going to rename eyes. I may name it again later. Here comes the cool part. And this didn't take very long into the video. I don't know how far we're in, probably less than 10 minutes in. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Then I hit this colorized right here. Look at the eye color. Now our eyes were blue. I'm going to change them to green. Somewhere in, I like that color of green. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, I ask you this. If you hadn't seen this picture before and didn't know that this was her actual eye color, is that green a believable color? I think the answer is yes. It's very believable. Now, I kind of miss that black right here on the edge here, but most people wouldn't pick that up. And actually, that's the way it is on the blue. It's no different. So is it a believable change? And the answer is yes. And this is the thing about Photoshop. If you get good at it, good Photoshop is when you can make a change and it doesn't look like Photoshop. It just looks like a change. Okay, so now I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to do a new selection. This time I'm going to use a lasso, which is the third tool down. I just hold the tool, go to lasso, and I have to select back on my picture. But before I do, I'm going to lock my eye layer so I don't accidentally do anything in that. I want to pick my picture layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the crown of her hair. And I'm just going to pick a piece like this. Oh, you know what? I need to do something first. I need to set my feather up here to 5. Forgot to do that. What this will do is when we do our selection, we're able to make a new layer and change that new layer like we did with the eyes. But this time, I want the color change to go from a solid and fade out to a gradient so it feathers around the edges, and that'll fit into her hair better. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So I'm going to pull down the hairline like so, and I'm just going to make a couple of sawtooths here. And I'm doing this intentionally in a big group because I need this to move. All right, so now I go to Layer, New. Oop, Layer, New. Be careful with that. Via Copy. Now that I've done that, I can go up to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, Colorize. And look at that hair. And I could leave that at that. Boom. And I'm going to call that purple. Notice I'm naming the layer as I make it. This is so I can keep things straight. Because I'm going to do this in a bunch of layers. Now, what I'm trying to replicate here is if somebody wanted to streak their hair up. And they tend to do it in bands oftentimes today. Kids do. You crazy kids. Anyway, so let me just pull out another one here. Put the same depth down, and I'm just sawtoothing it. You notice how that feather kind of smooths that glob out? Layer, new. Can you tell me what happens next? That's right. Layer via copy. I could hear you there. Now that we've done that, image, adjustments, hue and saturation, colorize, and there's the front layer. And I'm going to hit OK. All right, so we're going to call that purple 2. Now we're going to do it again, 2. We're going to do it again. Select the picture. This is the workflow, by the way. Select the picture. Select your lasso. Grab your lasso and do a selection. And it's okay that it overlaps there. It's totally fine. And actually, I'm going to hold my shift down. And I'm going to do the other side. There we go. Now I'm going to go layer new, via copy, image, adjustment. What happens next? Hue and saturation. That's correct. So hue and saturation, and I hit the colorize. Boom. Now this time I'm going to slide it. And I'm going to put a little green on that. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is just try to band it back. And notice, as clumpy as it looked when I did it, notice how that blends together. That's really not too bad. So we're going to call that one green. All right, let's do another one. That's right, picture. Lasso. Select. Okay, what do I hold if I want to do another? Oh, shift. That's right. That's right. All right, looks good. Layer. Yes. New. Layer via copy. That's correct. You're doing so well. All right, so image, adjustments, hue and saturation, colorize, right there. Ooh, gotta get it. Now let's go for a different color. Let's go for a, yeah, something different. Something different. All right. We're going to do one more after that, and then we're going to move on. Okay, got it? All right. Looks like a YouTuber, doesn't she? All right, so one more. One more. So rename this. We're going to call that let's call it violet, so it's different. Select picture. Go up to lasso. Do your selection. I'm going to just try to do this all in one munchy bunch. Now I went out a little too far on that one, but it's okay because we're going fast. I'm going to hold shift. And there we go. Now, I don't like the selection I did there, so I'm going to clean it up. And watch this trick. I'm going to go over to mask. And see this business right here? I could take my eraser and I could flip this to white on top, soft eraser, and I could run the size up a little bit. Watch this stunt. Now I'm going to flip it to black on top. And then I'm going to put white on top. Oh, eraser, be careful. White on top. Okay. And I think I'm going to be happy with that, pretty much. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. All right. Yep, that's better. All right, so now, once again, layer, new, via copy, image mode. Adjustments, excuse me. Hue and saturation, colorize. Yeah, I'm going with that. That's violet. Okay, I'm gonna have to switch some names up. All right, I like that. I'm gonna say okay on that. This is blue. This is violet. And there we go. Now, let's zoom out. What do you think? Now, that's the gist of what we've been doing. There are other changes that have been we're making as well. But if you understand that loop right there, that little process, that pretty much is the bulk of what you would need to know. So with that, this is Mr. Deckard at Studio D Productions, and I'm going to sign off.